Over the years, I've gotten a lot of questions about having a vacuum sealer on board. And my answer? Well, it's a little complicated. Hi there. I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley podcast, I'll share some pros and cons for having a vacuum sealer on a boat. I'll hopefully help you decide if it's the right choice for you. Today's episode of the Boat Galley podcast is sponsored by Mantis Marine, maker of the Mantis Anchor, now available in models with and without a roll bar. Set reliably in even the most challenging bottoms, the Mantis Anchor digs in like no other, making anchoring safer and boating more enjoyable. Mantis Marine brings to market practical, durable, and affordable marine products, including their anchoring gear, scuba diving accessories, rechargeable waterproof headlamp, and solar charging navigation light, great for a dinghy. Visit mantismarine.com and see for yourself. Let's talk about vacuum sealers. I've had vacuum sealers on my topic of podcast topics for ages, and honestly, I kind of keep putting it off. Not because I don't have thoughts, but because it's one of those pieces of gears that's hard to give a definitive yes or no on. But we'll try. Okay, here's the deal. I first bought a vacuum sealer back when we were cruising aboard Qatar. And I'll be honest, I loved it. But I also considered it a luxury. It wasn't essential gear, something that made certain tasks easier and helped food last longer. Yes, I did get another one to use on Barefoot Gal. Over the years, I've had a lot of people ask me which vacuum sealer I recommend. And here's the thing. I'm not going to recommend a specific model because they change so often. Companies go out of business, new versions come out. What was great a few years ago may not be great today. Instead, I'll walk you through what I'd look for if I were buying one today. But first, let's talk about why might you want one at all. Whether you're cruising full-time or just heading out on weekends, vacuum sealers do a better job of packaging food than Ziplocs. They remove more air, the bags are tougher, and once they're sealed, they don't pop open in a bouncy fridge or freezer. If you're heading to the boat for a weekend or a week at a time, sealing snacks or prepared meals at home before you leave makes provisioning a lot easier. For full-time cruisers, they're especially handy when you hit a major provisioning stock and want to stock up on things that might be hard to find for a while. And if you catch fish, a vacuum sealer really shines there. When you end up with more fish than you can eat fresh, sealing the fillets helps prevent freezer burn and keeps the texture a lot better than just tossing them into a baggie. But here's the thing. A vacuum sealer is only useful if it works reliably. And that's where some of them fall short. Many don't always get all the air out, or they're inconsistent with sealing. It's frustrating at home, but it's even more frustrating if you're somewhere that you can't get a replacement or where you expect it to work correctly and don't have a substitute. Now, first of all, a good sealer isn't cheap. Most of the well-rated home models run around $150. Bags cost at least 15 cents each. The small commercial sealers tend to be better. They also tend to run around $300. The bags also cost about 15 cents a piece. Okay, so what should you look for if you're thinking about buying one, even with that? First of all, look for recent user reviews. Models change constantly. What was good a few years ago might not be now. Next, look at the size. Some are surprisingly bulky. If you're short on space support or at home, check the dimensions before you buy. I was able to find one that was maybe 12 inches wide, 2 inches high, and 4 inches deep. That's about the smallest you're going to get, and it really worked well. Next, let's talk about the bag width. I found that 8 to 10 inches was ideal. You can always seal smaller things. Larger bags come in handy more often than I expected. That 10-inch, I did use it. So yeah, I would suggest it. Next thing you want to look at is the bag availability. Avoid sealers that only take proprietary bags unless the brand is very well established. And also check out the return policy. Try to get at least 30 days and test the sealer thoroughly right away to make sure your unit doesn't have issues. People sometimes ask about power. If you're only using it at home, obviously no problem. But even on the boat, I found that I used mine almost entirely when we were at a marina with shore power doing big provisioning. When I did use it just off the inverter and the batteries, like sealing fish fillets, it didn't draw much because I was only using it for a couple of minutes. Just make sure that your inverter can handle the wattage that it has. Okay, my bottom line, a vacuum sealer is great if you get a good one and you have the space and the budget. But if you're tight on money or storage, it's definitely a luxury item, not a must-have. Okay, that's it for this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, and thank you for listening. If you learned something useful, please share the information with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe in your favorite podcast app.